Hey y'all, Moses here. Today I want to talk about a few things that have been kind of bugging me over the last few days and that have kind of been bubbling in the back of my mind since the 1.0 release just a few weeks ago. So the first thing I want to talk about is a recent video that came out from Battlenonsense, and by recent it came out about 4 hours ago, so very, very recent. In the video he compares Fortnite Battle Royale, PUBG, and H1Z1's network performance and shows the different shortcomings and the differences between how they individually perform and how that translates into gameplay and network delay and all the different things that we kind of talk about when it comes to PUBG's server performance. So I'm going to include a few slides from his video. I will leave a link to the video in the description. It is an excellent video, well thought out, and very, very informative, and a little terrifying if you ask me, because I spent a few moments watching it back and forth to see if I could spot anything from a, silver linings point of view. But ultimately, the long and the short of the video is that PUBG's network performance continues to degrade as patches and time come along. So essentially, the brass tacks of PUBG is that the minimum update rate that is sent from the server to the client is 2 ticks. So we're talking about tick rate. The minimum it will reach is 2. The average is 18 and the maximum is 31. Now, if you compare that to Fortnite, it's about the same, with Fortnite dropping down to about 6 and then averaging about 19 and then topping out around 25 or 28 or something like that. And then, H1Z1 has significantly higher. You can see, I'll leave it on the screen as I'm talking about this stuff. But regardless, the real issue comes into play not in the tick rate itself, but the stability in which that tick rate is occurring as the game progresses. Again, another slide for your consumption, but as you can see on this graph, the network performance of PUBG is all over the place, up and down through the mid game, the early game, the late game, it doesn't matter. There are massive drops in server tick rate throughout the entire game. Now, what that means from a network delay perspective is that the best experience you can get is a 102 millisecond delay between shooting and receiving damage at a 25 mil. This is when both players are 25 milliseconds to the server. And the worst during one of those drops, which can last more than a minute, can be more than a second of delay. So like 1100 milliseconds, which is an incredible difference in a situation where in the late game or the early game or any time of the game, if there's like these drops on the graph are representative of, entire minutes or 35 seconds or longer in the game in which the server performance drops to a point of nearly nothing. Now, and by nearly nothing, I mean it's like 2 ticks per second, which is, pretty insanely bad. That's if you are sending a command on like a downbeat, it can take, again, almost a full second for that to register on the server and then get sent to the client and all sorts of different things. So the reality is that PUBG's server performance is abysmal and has gotten worse since the 1.0 patch. So this is probably along the lines of, the more stuff that gets added to the game, the harder it is for the server to reconcile all that data and then send it to and from the clients. So that's not an incredible shocker, but as far as server optimization is concerned, it's not a matter of tick rate, it's a matter of stability. So if you, again, looking at this graph, you can see these peaks and valleys, but then you compare it to something like Fortnite, which doesn't have a super high tick rate. Epic Games has, as stated by Battlenonsense in his video, has made the goal to be 20 hertz, which again is fairly low. But if you look at the stability, the band in which it fluctuates is much, much narrower than it is with PUBG, which is all over the place. So that is just it leads to very inconsistent behavior. And this is something that we see on a day-to-day basis. And as someone who's been playing a lot more recently, I've noticed it in a round-to-round basis as well. Not necessarily minute to minute, because I don't think I have the fine-tuned capabilities of noticing tick rate drops, between minute 17 and minute 21 of a game. But showing how this is laid out in this graph, it starts to make a little bit more sense. And even then, it kind of reinforces my opinion that the servers are absolute garbage. Now, it's not even the servers, it's the network performance, so the way the game is coded. This is something that's controlled by the developers. And not to mention that there is some question around whether or not European servers are still are moving to Azure. I thought that North American servers are moving to Azure as well, but ultimately right now, as far as we know, everything is still hosted on Amazon. So I'm not entirely sure what that looks like from a performance increase, if between one or the other. But I would imagine that based on the way the game is coded, that this is not going to matter a ton right now. So the second thing is the network delay issue that also relies on things like ping. So a little while ago, the developers talked about potentially adding a ping lock to the game, which would at least make it consistent or somewhat consistent, because again, in the test displayed in Battlenonsense's video, both of the players had 25 milliseconds of ping to the server. But that is not necessarily the case because we have so many foreign players playing on North American servers. Now, PlayerUnknown used the word xenophobia in his video, and that has basically taken root everywhere on Reddit and is just being tossed around this term xenophobia. Now, it's not really a matter about being xenophobic. Everyone has the right to play this game, but at this point, it has become almost a necessity to have some measures put in place that makes network delay as minimal as possible, considering the state, obviously, of the network coding in the game. You can't have these wild fluctuations on one hand and then pair them with players who have 200 plus ping. That could mean that you're getting a full 1 second delay, including ping, around a corner where you're getting shot so far away from the source of the gunfire that it doesn't even make sense. And now, again, this is probably ringing some bells for you guys, as it has for me, where hits aren't registered. Now, on that topic, a couple of days ago, the developers put out a patch that I didn't see coming, saying that they have fixed an issue with long-range hit registration and a few other, and something else. Either way, the long-range hit registration stuck out to me, because I didn't even know that was an issue. Like, I didn't realize that was a recognized problem. But in the same way they said they fixed the fences, which are now impenetrable, I don't think they've fixed this issue. I've been having issues with hit registration for a couple of days now, and maybe even longer, but it seems like since 1.0 has come along, the 8X is very inconsistent with the Car 98. The Mini seems bad. Everything just doesn't feel right, and it's been happening more and more. Maybe it's a confirmation bias thing on my end now that I know that this was an issue. But knowing how the devs say they fix one thing and then it, doesn't actually work out that way, it's not really their fault, I suppose. Maybe it's a limited condition that they've managed to fix that is, requires further testing and improvement, which is to be expected, as just because it says 1.0 on the game version doesn't mean that the game is 100% ready. So I can imagine that this is a work in progress and that they are likely working hard, but at this point, with the server issues in conjunction with the hit registration issues, the experience can be very, very poor from time to time. So I suppose I should bring some level of positivity rather than doom and gloom to this video and say, I believe that the first way, and this is something that Battlenonsense said in his video, this isn't by no means an original thought, the first thing is to cap the tick rate on the server to something that will allow it to perform within a certain band, because it feels like, because they haven't capped the performance, that these fluctuations are much worse, and maybe the server becoming overloaded, and then the tick rate drops to 2 and everything goes south. So there's that. Now, the input delay and the ping lock thing, I believe that ping lock is now a necessity. China accounts for more than 40% of the total player base at any given time, and everyone that I've come across in random squads and duos is speaking Chinese. I have no issue with Chinese players in the game. I do have an issue when they are flooding the North American servers and making that that hit registration issue and the ping delay or the network delay and everything that much worse. So I believe now is the time to look at a ping lock system for the North American servers. Now, I don't know when this is going to happen. I don't know how that's going to affect the player base, but ultimately this is something that needs to change immediately, because the quality of games is continuing to degrade and it's not getting better right now. So yeah, that's kind of the long and the short of it. I didn't really want this to be a rant video, but this is where we're at. So I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I will leave, of course, again, a link to Battlenonsense's video in the description below. Let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you think that the devs should focus on? Should they cap the tick rate? Should they try to increase the tick rate? Where do we go from here? How are you finding the hit registration? Is it better since the patch has come in? I'm not sure if you guys are noticing anything from an improvement standpoint, but I'm still having a few issues here and there. So yeah, leave your comment down below. Of course, if you liked the video, hit that like button. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/WTFMoses and on Twitter at WTFMoses. I will be streaming through the weekend, and we'll be talking lots about this since this is a very interesting topic to me. So again, thank you guys for watching the video, and until next time, I'll see you out there.